It was in this house in Saint-Loup-de-Varennes, 5 miles from Chalon-sur-Saône, that Niépce invented photography. Since his death, this historic residence has remained unexplored, except for the occasional visit by photo history buffs who come and admire the outside of the house. In July 1999, the Paris photography school Spéos became a tenant of the residence when the school's founder Pierre-Yves Mahé rented the part of the house where Niépce had installed his workshop. Mahé's intention was to explore the building in hopes of finding elements dating back to Niépce, and then to restore the space back to its original state. Spéos was joined in this adventure by Jean-Louis Marinier, research scientist at the CNRS, who has extensively studied Niépce since 1989. It is here on the second floor that Niépce installed his workshop. At the start of the excavation, samples of mortar and plaster were taken to the Center for Medieval Studies in Orsay for analysis in order to determine what modifications had been made to the original building. Once stripped, the bare walls reveal traces of a series of changes made to the building. Clues begin to appear. Several nails in the sunlit wooden floor near the window. The barely visible traces of images imprinted in the wooden floor excite the researcher's curiosity. Pierre-Yves Mahé then contacts the Chronoecology Laboratory in Besançon, which specializes in dating wood. By analyzing the structure of the wood veins in several floorboards, it is possible to determine the date at which the trees used to make the parquet floor were chopped down. The wood floors, sideboards, and doors are examined by scientists. Several weeks later, they deliver their verdict: 1852, 1857, 1870. The wood in the room is too recent. The nails and the traces of images in the wood do not go as far back as Niépce. Further exploration leads to the discovery of an even older floor. The original floorboards of the house are finally uncovered and restored. These are the floors on which Niépce had walked. According to another expert of historical buildings, most of the windows are from Niépce's era. They have simply been modified. The original 20 panes were reduced to 6. Only 2 windows are more recent, those on either side of the chimney. This discovery immediately catches the attention of Jean-Louis Marinier. One of the subjects of his research has been to try and determine the exact place from where Niépce took the earliest existing photograph in history and the only known photograph taken by Niépce to have traveled through time until today. In describing this photograph, the inventor of photography wrote that it was taken from the room where I work. We distinguish an open window, and beyond it the buildings that existed at the time and which have since disappeared. Made on a pewter plate, the image is reversed and gives a backwards left-to-right view of reality. Using land survey plans dating from 1830, the researcher Marinier used a computer to reconstruct the residence and property exactly as they were at the time. Thus we can identify the window from where the photograph was taken. The window is the one to the left of the chimney. The computer-assisted image is adjusted to precisely duplicate Niépce's photograph. Curiously enough, a perfect match is only possible if the window is moved 70 centimeters to the right. Then came the hypothesis that the window had been moved to build the chimney, which did not exist in Niépce's time, as shown by a lithograph made by his son. It becomes necessary to excavate around the window. A trapdoor made in the wooden floor makes it possible to easily observe the original floorboards. It is immediately apparent, judging from cuts made in the wood, that the window had been modified. Here we discover at exactly 70 centimeters to the right the edge of a former window which extends over here under the chimney, right where I have my finger, and is exactly the width of the other windows. What is left of an angle in one of the planks indicates the location of the former windowsill. The difference between the original window and the current one is exactly 70 centimeters. The window was located right here, and the camera was placed in this position. The two researchers decide to reproduce Niépce's experiments in exactly the same locations where they had been carried out. They begin with the earliest experiments dating back to 1816. First they have a camera obscura made according to Niépce's indications. One of them, he wrote, is a small square box, 6 inches on each side, which will be equipped with an extendable tube and which carries a lenticular glass. Niépce also made another camera obscura with each side measuring 11 centimeters and which he used extensively for the first experiments. To prepare the first photographic printing paper in history, Niépce began by dissolving a silver coin in nitric acid. When the metal was dissolved, he added some cooking salt to cause silver chloride to precipitate at the bottom of the jar. Niépce then spread onto paper this white compound, which blackens very quickly under light. He writes to his brother and says, "I spread up to 6 layers." The paper was then put into the camera. To reproduce the first views taken in 1816, the window that corresponds to the original position is the one located at the end of the house. From this window, one sees the barn indicated by Nicéphore in his description of the picture. In just over 1 hour, pictures are recorded on the silver chloride. Niépce explains, "The background of the picture is black and the objects are white, meaning lighter than the background." This is the description of the first negative in history. However, Niépce was unable to fix the image. Photography is not yet invented. 8 more years of research will be needed before Niépce masterminds a process that will give permanent images. For this, he used bitumen of Judea. Images on copper, tin, or silver plates were then realized after a few days of exposure time. Through this process of heliography, photography is born. In 1829, Niépce took Daguerre as a partner. They invented a new process in Saint-Loup de Varennes during the summer of 1832 called the phototype, absolutely unknown in the history of photography until it was rediscovered by Marinier. The inventor of photography, Nicéphore Niépce, died suddenly in July 1833. Research on the property will be continued outdoors, from the air with aerial photography, on the ground in the garden where the marble chimney has been found, but also underground with the aid of radar imaging, and by searching inside the wells of the property, an undertaking which has already begun. Pierre-Yves Mahé continues his research by making images from reproductions of Niépce's original boxes using modern films. Jean-Louis Marinier has centered his research around restoring Niépce's other processes, also using modern reproductions of his cameras. By recreating the setting, the objects and the images of the first place where a photograph was fixed on a silver plate, the birthplace of photography has once again come to life.